Hey everyone. So it's a Thursday afternoon, and I've got the pleasure of bringing on Connor Saeli, who some of you might know his days on The Bachelor, Bachelor in Paradise, but we're here more so because he's actually a real like entrepreneur, investor, connoisseur. He's got a lot of different things going on. His background is super interesting. So I'm very excited. Connor, thank you for joining us here today.
Thank you, sir. Happy to be on here. Excited to talk about some of this stuff.
Awesome, man. Yeah. And so I'm very excited as well. Just give our listeners here a brief background. Like, who is Connor Saeli? Because
hmm
you might have seen Connor, like I said, on TV, but that's not really like your background story. So give the listeners a little bit of an insight into who you are.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy going on TV because you only get to see maybe like 10 minutes of someone's personality, right? And you don't really get to understand who that person really is, where they're from, what makes them who they are. So it's cool to do some of these things and kind of be able to talk about that a little bit more and explain it. But I'm originally from Michigan, youngest of four kids, and lived in Dallas, went to SMU out in Dallas and lived there for a few years after, worked at Goldman Sachs in their special situations group. So that was kind of my life before the show. Was just grinding in a finance job like a lot of people do. And just happened to find myself on TV. But
Yeah.
I'd always wanted to start a business, and that was always like a big dream of mine to do that. And so it was cool, after the show to ultimately kind of pursue that path. And I think whether the show happened or not, I'd still kind of be in the same place I am now. Just maybe it would have taken longer, would have gone a different route. But really don't think the show changed my trajectory. Obviously, a lot of great things came from it, whether that's connections with people or whatever else. But really think I'd kind of end up in the same spot that I am now, which is cool and fun to say. But yeah, just a normal guy from a small town in Michigan that's trying to make it out here.
Yeah. You bring up like you're from Michigan. What
hmm
kind of led you, I guess, that first starting point to Goldman Sachs? Like what made Goldman Sachs kind of stand out in Connor's head saying, yeah, that's kind of the path I want to take? Was it like the easiest way to get into the business world, or like why that move?
Yeah, well, for those familiar with like finance, what a lot of people do is you go do investment banking for 2 years and then you ditch it and go work at some private equity firm or hedge fund, right? So that was
Yeah.
kind of like the dream for me. And so growing up, my dad he ran an automotive company, and so like I loved business because of him. But my oldest brother, he did the investment banking route, worked for a hedge fund for a while, and then he actually owns his own hedge fund now. And then
Okay.
my other brother did investment banking for a few years out of college as well. So when I was going through college, I was like, I gotta do this, right? And
Yeah.
like I think at SMU and other schools, it's very hyped up, right? Like investment banking is what you need to do to be successful in finance and business, and it's like a great springboard into other things. But I think when I was looking at opportunities, like no one really likes investment banking. It kind of sucks, right? Like I think 99.9% of people you ask don't enjoy their life when they do it. Yeah, you can make a lot of money, but that's why everyone leaves after 2 years. So my thought when I was doing it was, okay, I'll look at those opportunities, I'll apply to those opportunities, but what if we kind of also look at maybe doing private equity straight out of college, or there's other like cool, interesting groups where you can almost skip that step and jump right into it. So when I was looking, those were really the opportunities that I was shooting for. And Goldman has this like secret group called the Special Situations Group, which is like a very small hidden team within the firm. They honestly don't even talk about it that much in like reports or anything, because it's like
Yeah.
not sketchy, but it's like a little secretive, right? Like do a lot of things that people don't know about. And it's like they within the firm they kind of call us like the black ops, right? It's like the Navy SEALs almost, because it was like this cool group. No one knows much about it, a lot of mystery, but they do all these cool, like sweet things. We invest in all these cool companies, and just all these like really interesting deals, from real estate to fast food chains. I don't know, it's like the most random stuff, but that made it cool and interesting. And so that was a group that I happened to intern in after my junior year and got a return offer after college. So going into my senior year, I had a full-time job lined up for after, which made that year incredible. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I felt like going through finance or business, it was always the thought of, okay, I need to do this in order to do this later on in life. And then I think, probably get into this more later, but I just reached a point where I was like, okay, a few months in the job, I was like, I don't really like this. It's not what I thought it would be. I'm not happy. And then my thought was like, if I don't see myself here in 5 years and know I want to do something different, why don't I just go try and do that now? And I think that kind of led, to what I'm doing at this point.
So like on that job, were you like more so like doing private equity where you were like investing in businesses, or were you like more so like going into like investing in stocks? Because if it was investing in businesses, that sounds like the path that really led you to, kind of like your investor kind of background.
For sure. Yeah. So growing up, I was always interested in stocks and investing, but that's really the only investing you're able to be exposed to, because you can't just go invest in some startup when you're 15 years old. So that was what I was used to. But when I got into this group, this was private investing. So it was anywhere from equity to debt, whatever other investment we would do. It was very unique. Our group just had all these different capabilities that we could work within. But I think the thing that I really enjoyed, and like this was a couple of the reasons that I wanted to leave. So one, a lot of the businesses that we would invest in were, these founders of companies, and we'd be investing $100 million into the business, and they'd be taking like half of that, and be like, geez, why am I sitting here getting, I mean, it was obviously I was like happy with what I was making. I think anyone that works in investment banking or giant finance firm is happy with that. But like, this dude's cashing out $50 million. Like, why am I sitting here?
Sounds like a good gig for them, man.
Yeah. And money's not everything, but like these people were so passionate about their business. This was something they've worked on for years and years. And like to finally see it pay off and to be a part of that from our side was really cool to watch that happen. So I think there's that. And I had always wanted to start a business growing up, like even in college, there were all these different things that I tried to do, none of which worked out. But
what were some of those things? That's interesting to me. Like, what were some of those things in college you started to do? Because I'm a fellow entrepreneur myself.
Yeah.
So like listening to what you're trying to do here is kind of fascinating.
No, for sure. Yeah. So even when I was in elementary school, I think it was in 5th grade. This is how I knew I wanted to like start something where I could sell. And I say that there was this wrapping paper fundraiser that we had during school, and I had won my grade every year going through elementary school. In 5th grade, it was like I never won the entire school. There was always one kid that beat me, and it started to piss me off. So I was like, I'm going to win this year. And I literally for a full day just disappeared from my parents, from our house, went to like 100 different houses and sold wrapping paper. And my parents ended up calling the police because they thought I had been like kidnapped. And they couldn't find me, but I was so determined to win. And I did end up winning, which was sweet. But I feel like that was an early story where I was like, okay, I can kind of see what I'm doing now, because it's less of like sitting at a job and like punching numbers and whatever, and more of like getting out there, selling to people. And I love doing that stuff, like interacting with people. So I think that was one thing. And then in college, I mean, we thought of all these different business ideas, because I had a full-time job lined up. So it's literally like, your senior year, you're not necessarily taking the hardest classes. Maybe there's one or two, but anywhere from like, I think we thought of like different investing application ideas, but then also my buddy and I were like really set on starting this thing similar to the Dollar Shave Club, but with like hair care products.
Okay.
It was going to be called the Simply Tamed Club.
Okay.
It never ended up coming to fruition, which honestly may be a good thing. But that was one of the ideas.
You say it might not have been a good thing that didn't come through fruition, but you think about it during the pandemic. Remember, all the hair salons were closed, man. So
True.
It was home haircuts left and right. I had to get myself a home haircut. You probably had to do a home haircut. Like, I don't know. It could have been the next big thing. You never know.
It could have been the next big thing. You never know. Never know. Maybe we'll have to bring that one back to life. I don't know. But we literally worked for like 2 months on this thing, came up with like logos and everything, and it just never it was like, all right, maybe we'll put this on the back burner for a different day. But yeah, I kind of always knew I wanted to do that stuff. I feel like working at Goldman and seeing these founders start their businesses and how successful they were, that was one thing. The other thing that I didn't like about my job there was like in any investment banking role, when you start out as an analyst, you're much more behind the desk, like crunching the numbers, putting together the pitch books. Sure, you get to go to management meetings and whatever, but like you're not as client facing as a VP or managing director. And I didn't want to do that stuff. I wanted to do like the VP managing director job. So, I remember I went to my boss one day. I was like, hey, can I like do some of this stuff? Like, can I go find my own deals, And I remember he told me no. And it kind of pissed me off because I was like, okay, screw it. I'm going to go do it anyways. I didn't say that to him, but like I went back to my desk and said, I'm going to do it anyways. And I remember I sourced 2 deals that we actually screened in our internal investment committee. And I was like the first analyst to ever bring a deal in and like screen it and go like do all the due diligence and everything. So it was like really cool to do that. And I remember when I did it, all of like, usually those investment committee meetings, like 25% of the people will join in. It's like no one really, like not everyone is interested in every deal. I remember the one that I screened, every person from the group joined in because they were like, all right, because they wanted to see me fail almost, which is interesting.
Wow.
Because you would think, well, at least the older people did, because you'd think like, okay, we all work for the same company, want to succeed. But there's a weird dynamic of big finance firms like Goldman, where they're very old fashioned. And you see this young guy come in and bringing a deal in, kind of stepping on the toes of the older people. And they're almost like, screw this guy. Right.
Yeah.
So remember they were like blowing me up with all these questions. And I'll be honest, I didn't answer all of them. Like I did not do the best job answering them, whatever, like doing the due diligence. But even I could care less about that. I just love the fact that I like almost proved these people wrong. And to me, it was like a nice little like FU to those people. And that's kind of how I feel about that group now. Like it's just really frustrating to me, all these companies that are super old fashioned and aren't open to change and the opinions of younger people. And I think in finance in particular, it's such an issue. I mean, you're just at the bottom of the totem pole when you start working there, and you're just replaceable, right?
Yeah.
Like they'll bring a new robot in to crunch numbers, but they don't want anyone to come in there and actually do real valuable work because they're too caught up in like stepping on their toes or whatever. So I like that whole dynamic really frustrated me. But I think it was a great learning experience.
Yeah, I definitely think like you could take a lot out of that. I agree with you. There's a lot of, if you look at like Goldman and then JP Morgan and a lot of these older banks, it's why they're getting taken over by fintech companies. Like you look at PayPal, you look at Square, you look at these other companies, they've taken them over. And it's because of logic like you're talking about, where, it's old school ways of thinking. Would you ever go back into investment banking? Because that to me, like, it sounds like you don't want to. But is the door still open at some point in your life?
I mean, maybe in some point I could see myself, maybe not investment banking, but maybe more like venture capital later on in life, where like I can provide value from experience of, starting a business and selling that or whatever that looks like. But I don't think like true investment banking would ever happen again for me. And the other thing too, I just think the way those firms operate is so old fashioned. And there's a big thing on like FaceTime within these firms. It's like, okay, if you're an analyst, you need to be the first one in, the last one to leave. You got to dress up, wear like suit pants, and a nice shirt. Maybe I'm just a terrible employee, but I would come in and I'd toe the line with my dress code. I'd wear like a Henley, a golf shirt, whatever. And then like, you know, if I was done with work, like I'm going to leave. I'm not just going to sit here and twiddle my thumbs to make some managing director happy. And so I, you know, I think that kind of bothered people,
Yeah.
but in reality, I could care less. Like y'all need to change your culture and make it a little more desirable, because the reason people don't want to work there anymore isn't because it's like a great place to make money. It's because it's a miserable job. And I can go work at some fintech firm or some other like new startup, make the same amount of money and have a way better work-life balance. So
Oh, for sure.
that's my 2 cents on investment banking.
So to segue off of investment banking, you do that part of your life. Then what comes next? Was it Sail Wellness that came next, your first company that you started? Or was it an investment that you made? What came next in that story?
Yeah, so it's an interesting story with that time in my life. I think I pretty quickly into working at Goldman, I realized, okay, this isn't really what I want to do, but I didn't know what I did want to do. I knew I loved starting businesses. And I think as I thought about it more and more, I was like, okay, that's the route I want to go down. And it was like a year after that initial thought. So I'd been at Goldman for probably a year and a half. I met this guy and he like really inspired me to, you know, like ultimately just pursue what I wanted to do. And he was going to help me kind of start a business. And so I had that in the back of my mind. And then at Goldman, they put me on 2 oil and gas deals. And our group was like a generalist group. So we worked in all different industries. And I just never wanted anything to do with oil and gas because it was just like a totally different learning curve and everything. And so they put me on these 2 deals. My life was just miserable for like 2 months. Like I absolutely hate this job. This sucks. And honestly, just walked into work one day. It was a week or 2 before Thanksgiving of 2018. And I was like, hey, went in my boss's office, like, hey, I just can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
This just isn't for me. He wasn't super pleased, but was understanding. And he asked me to stay through the end of January, which was amazing because I still got to get my bonus. And honestly, like didn't really have to do much for 2 months, just kind of like enjoyed the last couple months working there and getting paid. And so did that, but it gave me a great opportunity to like figure out what I wanted to do. And so I did that. And then it was funny, the week after Thanksgiving, so this was like 2 weeks after I quit to kind of do my own thing, I got a call from the Bachelor because someone nominated me without telling me. And you know, it was like they were like, would you be interested in doing this? And it honestly couldn't have been better timing in my life. So it was like, yeah, well, I mean, why not? Would love to kind of see what's up with this. And one thing led to another. Left Goldman end of January, like I was going to previously. And then they called me Valentine's Day and we're like, hey, you know, you're going to be on the show. Left a month later, so it was March 12th, and found myself on the show. And none of the business stuff really happened until probably like a month after Paradise had ended airing on TV. So like between that point and Paradise ending was kind of, you know, just enjoying life for a little bit and kind of still figuring out what I wanted to do, and just enjoying like the time on the show and everything. And then once all of that was over and kind of settling down, I was like, okay, you know, let's get back to what we wanted to do before. And that's when all the business ideas started sprouting up.
So what was that first business idea then? And what made you, because you started a couple businesses on your own, we can kind of go through those, but then also the investment opportunities. Like what made you determine that you wanted to be a part of those ventures?
Yeah, for sure. So the first business was funny because I think the best business ideas come from your own problems and solving them.
Yeah.
And so on the show, you know, I mean, you're super stressed out, you're sleep deprived, X, Y, and Z. So you sleep terribly at night. And I was like the melatonin plug on the show. So I brought like all this melatonin and pass it out to everyone every night because no one else brought it. And it was the only way we would sleep. And we got to the point where we were taking like way too much. Like, I don't know how much you should take, but I feel like we were like well exceeding it and still not sleeping.
Okay.
And then when you get back from the show, it's like, you know, you're stressed out from watching yourself on TV. all this anxiety,
Yeah.
you still can't sleep. And so I was like, all right, I got to solve this for myself. And I tried all these different like sleep gummies, these powders, whatever. And some of them worked, some of them didn't. But what I found is like there wasn't something that was fun to take, simple, easy, simple ingredients. They all had like all these ingredients that I had no clue what they did. And it's like, I wonder if I can make something myself. And so I spent the month trying to find a manufacturer, call different people, a month just spinning my wheels, didn't figure anything out. I was like, you know what? I feel like I just need to get in touch with someone who started some sort of nutrition company before. And I literally just messaged this guy on LinkedIn. I was like, hey, I have this idea for this sleep product. Saw you worked at this firm, like would love to kind of discuss further and, pick your brain on it. And he ended up loving the idea. And he kind of helped me start that business. And so we started working on a sleep gummy. It was super simple ingredients. We happened to get in touch with a great manufacturer. And then we added in an apple cider vinegar gummy as well. And so we probably started working on that in November. I think we placed the purchase order for the gummies probably in right around Christmas time. And then we officially launched, I want to say it was March 2nd or 3rd. So it was an interesting time to launch a business, but it was it was a really cool project to work on, and cool to kind of see, that was the first time I think, like, I'd always had these business ideas, but it was cool to actually follow through on turning the business idea into an actual business and like holding the physical product in your hand for the first time. I think that is such like an amazing thing as an entrepreneur, holding this product in your hand that you've worked on for months. And it's like very overwhelming.
Yeah.
I didn't tear up, but it was like very, it was very cool to see it. And like that being the first one that I worked on was definitely a really cool thing to see. But so that was the first business. And then I think just in terms of like investing stuff, I've always loved doing that. Whether it was like investing in stocks early on in my life. I think my parents started letting me, look at stocks when I was, I don't know, like 13.
All right.
And that they didn't let me just like give me like, the trading account, but they would let me talk to like a stockbroker and like throw ideas out there. And then I remember when I was at Goldman, I got really into like crypto for like a couple months. And I was, that was in 2017. So that was like right when it was like really ramping up. And I remember every day I'd come home from work and I'd like look at it and it'd double from the day before. I'd be like, geez, if this keeps going up, like I'm gonna retire in like 2 months. Like this is crazy. So I was like getting ready to retire when I was, 23. And then of course it all came crashing down pretty quickly. But it's on the rise now. So love doing that stuff. And then I think I'd always wanted to just be like a part of startups and businesses. And as a young person there, I feel like there weren't really many ways you could do that, at least when I was at Goldman. And maybe it's because I just wasn't, in that network of people and like didn't see those opportunities. But I feel like now startup investing is just so much more popular. And so it's cool to, have all those opportunities and like, all the different projects and businesses and things that come across my computer now. It's just cool to see. It's
interesting. Like you bring up stocks, crypto, all that stuff. Just like you, I was 13. I got into investing too. I would watch my dad trade options. And which I know, options are, it's pretty much gambling. It's like very speculative, but I think there's something to be said for like getting into that stuff super young, because it just really like catapults you. It really accelerates the timeline, because someone that doesn't get into, finance and investing and looking at, startups really like young, they'll start doing it in their 30s, their 40s, their 50s, and they miss out on this, awesome time to really do it. I want to touch on, stocks and crypto a little bit. You said you're a big crypto proponent. You said it crashed. We've seen Bitcoin now at 62,000 or whatever. So are you a Bitcoin believer?
So yeah, so so in 2017, I'm gonna be honest, I put way too much in there, and that's why I was like, all right, I'm gonna retire. Like I'm gonna retire soon, and it all crashed. I think it was early 2018, and honestly, I didn't look at my account for like 2 years, literally until this last Christmas. I didn't open my account, and so finally I saw that it was going back up, and this was like the end of 2020, and I was like, oh, maybe I should check this out and see what's up, because I just didn't want to look at it because I knew it was gonna be so bad for a while. And so I looked it up and I was like, oh, okay, this isn't bad. And when I got into it first, I knew nothing about it, literally didn't know anything about it. And so I was investing in all these different altcoins and everything, like literally didn't have a clue what they did. Still don't. But I kept hearing about Dogecoin, right?
Oh, you're one
like,
of those. Are you one of those Redditors?
No, I'm honestly not. But I was
right.
like, okay, every time Elon tweets about this thing, it goes up. I literally don't know anything about it. That's my investment thesis. So I was like, I went into investing in this crypto stuff without thinking I was going to get this money back. I'm just going to say screw it and like put all of this into Dogecoin. And this was this was before the new year, and that's right when it went on that wild ride. And it like went up to almost 60 cents. I didn't sell it when it was at 60 cents. I wish I had waited, but I think I sold it when it was at like 15 to 20 cents.
Okay.
And it like paid off very nicely, and then just put it into a bunch of different things. So I'm not in Bitcoin, because my thought is, I don't know. I feel like I'm less in crypto for like the longevity of it,
Yeah.
and more so for not necessarily like a gambling thing, but I think you never know what's going to happen, and so kind of like diversified across a few different ones, and we'll see what happens.
All right.
Are you a big Bitcoin guy?
I am. I think it's
Okay.
fast. I think it's fascinating. So this is my thesis on it, and you tell me what you think about this thesis. We've already seen El Salvador adopt it as a currency. I think you're going to start seeing Latin America, and then you're going to start seeing Africa and Asia, and then the laggards are going to be, North America and Europe.
Right.
But like Africa and Latin America are super interesting because it's all decentralized countries to begin with. Like the governments aren't stable. So I think you're going to see them all adopt Bitcoin. And artificially, I think it's just going to explode from there. So I'm a big believer. I can't follow you on Dogecoin though.
I agree. That is the definition of a meme coin. So it literally has no value, but fortunately paid off at the right time. I'm not gonna lie. So, but okay, so I'm curious though, because Bitcoin, I feel like I always see these like price predictions for it, and like honestly, who knows what price it's going to go to? Do you actually think like $1 million is a potential price for Bitcoin? Because here's my thought.
All right,
as someone just getting into, like, let's say I had enough money to buy one Bitcoin, right?
Yeah.
Am I better off putting $5,000 into a bunch of different random coins like Ethereum, and maybe some big ones, maybe some like really crappy ones, who knows, but like maybe it's the next Shiba Inu, I don't know. Or do I put that Bitcoin value into one Bitcoin? Because my thought is, even if Bitcoin goes to $1 million, you're essentially 20xing your money, right? Versus maybe something like Ethereum or like a different one has more potential,
Yeah, that's
more risky for sure.
So if you're strictly talking Bitcoin versus Ethereum, there's a lot of people that believe Ethereum is better because you can actually build off of that blockchain. Like NFTs are made off of Ethereum. So like that's one, case there. Personally, I think Bitcoin's going to 500K. I think it's going there in the next like 3 years. You'll see it there.
All right.
And it's because of the thesis that I laid out. And also, there's varying factors, but I think it's going to go there. I think Africa is the major key, man, because like
Mm-hmm.
they are the fastest growing continent, but all of their countries for the most part are destabilized.
Right.
They got to accept something like Zimbabwe. I don't know if you know this, but Zimbabwe, it costs like $1 million Zimbabwe dollars to buy a loaf of bread. Like how
Crazy.
like 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 how can you compete on that? So
Yeah.
so it's tough, man. I think Bitcoin is the way to go, but there's a lot of people that know a lot more about this than I do that, love these altcoins. But
Mm-hmm.
I
Well, yeah. I mean, I feel like they love the altcoins because it goes like 100x in a month, right?
yeah,
But like, is there actually any longevity in it? Probably not. I mean,
pump and
I
dump.
feel like, yeah, I feel like most people that are like really into crypto, it's like, okay, maybe 1 to 5 coins will win out in the long term. It's
Yeah.
like, what is that long term? What does that look like? Is that like 10 years from now, 20 years from now? I don't know. But I mean, honestly, for anyone listening, like I really don't know what I'm talking about with this stuff, which is I think
This is not investment advice. This is just
this is not investment advice.
two.
I think it's super interesting.
Oh
And
yeah.
I think most people would say that too, but also it's just like even more interesting when you see and hear these crazy stories of like people making a ton of money on it. It's like, all right, what am I missing here?
There's so many Bitcoin millionaires.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many Dogecoin millionaires, man. Like I'm watching. So I had Leslie Picker from CNBC come on this podcast, and she interviewed Roaring Kitty
Oh,
from
no way.
from Reddit, and like these people have made an absurd amount of money, and it's not just on like Dogecoin. It was on
Mm-hmm.
GameStop. It was on AMC. You got to wait for this next pump because there's going to be another wave of
For
million.
sure.
It's
Mm-hmm.
it's crazy how like social media has just gotten so many
Yeah.
people into
So
stock.
did you hear about the guy who I think he put like $8,000 into Shiba Inu and it's what is it like $5 billion now or something?
Oh yeah.
Like, I mean, you hear a story like that, you're like, okay, I'll toss a little bit around to like see what happens.
Connor, this is what I'm thinking. Like, where were we on this? Like, why did we not?
Hey,
why were we talking about this?
That's what I'm thinking,
But I want to segue a little bit here. I want the listeners to know about Waterboy because I think it's fascinating. Probably a lot of listeners, that we have, they're around my age, I would assume, right? They're around our age. I'm sure they go out and they have a good time Friday night, Saturday night. You need to stay hydrated. You don't, hangovers are terrible. I'm lucky enough I don't get hangovers, but we're rare here.
You're one of the blessed few, I'm gonna be honest.
But it's from everything I've researched, and I want you to tell our listeners about it. Like, what is Waterboy? Because it could be that cure to not feeling like shit waking up in the morning.
Yeah, no, 100%. I actually got it right here for you.
Right.
But yeah, so I guess, when you look traditionally, well, I'll take a step back. So one of the reasons I hate going out, I don't hate it, but like, I don't really go out much because I hate waking up the next day, feeling like crap, having a super unproductive day. And honestly, just, it's like a wasted day basically. So honestly, I like avoid going out a lot of times. And I met my friend Mike back in January, and he had this idea to create a hydration recovery formula. And we looked at like, okay, what are other products that exist currently that people might take for a hangover? And so there's Pedialyte, Liquid IV. There's a few other random things that people do. And so if you look at Pedialyte, the nutrition label, it has 25 grams of sugar. And this is kind of touted as like one of the best hydration cures, right? It's like the gold standard, 25 grams of sugar. You look at Liquid IV, it's a 16-gram electrolyte stick. 11 grams of that is sugar. And I think not like half a gram is the actual electrolytes.
Yeah.
And so 70% of what you're buying is sugar. So if you look at the products that exist, it's like, all right, you're essentially just purchasing sugar with a little bit of salt. And our thought was, okay, if we can make a product that has 3 times the electrolytes of liquid IV, no sugar, ginger for stomach nausea, L-theanine, which relaxes you, and then vitamin B and C, and really like, which are ingredients that help with hangovers, especially the day after. The electrolytes are great for that. That was kind of our thesis, that we can make this product, which is healthier, more potent, and better than the products that exist currently, and specifically target towards hangovers. Whereas these other products, Pedialyte's like a baby formula that people happen to take for hangovers. Liquid IV is more of a general hydration that they kind of try and target all these different things with the same formula. And that was really our kind of the springing board of what we thought of. And we started working on the formula, and ended up producing it in June. And then before that, in May, we started making TikTok videos, and that was kind of our main focus on marketing it. And a couple of those started to take off from the very beginning, and we ended up selling out our entire first production run within a day, basically. And then we had to kind of scramble to get more inventory. It just took about a month. So August 1st, we officially like relaunched with our same flavor, lemon ginger, and then basically sold through that. We're pretty close to selling out of that right now. And we had like more than doubled our production run for round 2. So it's kind of cool to see how it's grown. And then we just came out with a new flavor, strawberry lemonade, on Sunday, which is pretty exciting.
All right.
And then we reformulated the lemon ginger flavor, which that'll be probably launching in a couple weeks. And then we have a lemon lime flavor coming out as well. And then we're working on some other products too, as well as flavors. So it's kind of exciting to see how much it's grown within the span of five months. And it's crazy looking at like these other competitors. Like there's a big not competitor, but like another big drink brand that we happened to look at the other day. And what they've done in sales, and this is like a very well-known brand with like a lot of high profile people behind it. What they've done in sales in a longer period of time than us, they've done like half the amount of sales, and they've probably raised I think they've raised like $5 million to start. And we've done like double the sales of them, and our product is way better. So and we spent $0 on marketing too. So that's
crazy. Like you've really scaled this into like a business that could be massive. Like just based on the growth trajectory you're going on now, you're adding on more products, you got more flavors. And for all listeners out there, we're gonna, find you a way to, actually purchase Waterboy, get this into your system. It's very important, but that's incredible how you scaled it so quickly. Like that's really hard, especially in manufacturing.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it kind of scaled itself in a way. I mean, I think most people, you start a business and you're always very hopeful for how it's going to do. And like you're pumped to launch it. I don't think either Mike and I expected it to necessarily go as well as it did. And I want to warn people, like 99% of the time when you start something, you're not going to like sell out the first day. Just honestly, timing happened to be really right when we started it, and everyone loved the idea and the product. And I think we marketed it the right way and really hit, a pain point that people have. But I think with how well it did, and just hearing from customer feedback and everything with the audience we now have on social media platforms, it kind of naturally scaled itself, of like people giving us ideas, whether it's like new flavors, new products, the formula is too salty, too gingery, whatever. Like really it kind of refined itself. So we've taken all that feedback and put it into new flavors, a couple new products, hopefully coming out, end of November, early December, and then in the new year. And then, just like kind of reformulating it too. But obviously like it's a great idea, and it's done really well. Now we're kind of in phase 2 of, okay, how do you take this idea that's done really, really well and scale it? And I think that's somewhere where a lot of startups and businesses struggle with. So like we've like kind of focused a lot on, okay, what are like the main points that we need to focus on? And I'm sure you remember like the food pyramid
Oh
thing,
yeah.
right?
Oh yeah.
So if you kind of flip it, whereas like the most important thing is on the top, the least important on the bottom. Like for us right now, the most important thing is content creation,
Okay.
because we've seen so much return on our investment in that. And that just helps us build our audience, build our channels. And so we're really focused on, okay, how can we just keep building content? Then underneath that, you have all these other little things of things we need to focus on. And one of those is like new flavors, new products. And we've really kind of stuck to that kind of funnel. And I think those are the things that will hopefully take it to the next level.
Well, as these new products, flavors continue to come out, want to continue to get, not just our listeners, but spread the word out, because this is something that can, help impact you on a daily basis. And so I think it's incredible what you're doing. It's very hard. Like I said before, I'm an entrepreneur. It's very hard to go from an idea to a product and then a product to actually scaling it. You've done both steps. And so I commend you, especially with, all the competition in there and how much other companies raise. You're really, you're being lean as you're building it. That's most important.
And I think it's important to start out that way for sure. And I feel like a lot of companies don't do that now. And I mean, you see all these like PR releases and everything literally every day of X, Y, and Z company raised $10 million for whatever. It's like, do you really need that? Like, what are you going to use that for? And I think there is a certain level. Okay, right now, money is fairly cheap. So like you can go out and raise a bunch of money for a good valuation. And who knows if it's going to be the same thing a year or two from now. So like you might as well do it now. But if you don't need it, like why have it? I think there's a lot of value in setting kind of a company tone from the beginning of like,
yeah,
okay, we're going to be very frugal in a way and like just focus on building this thing with the least amount of money. But I think where money is helpful, like we'll definitely look to raise it. And I think there's a few situations where that's going to be important. One of which is when we start to get into like retail stores, because that's like a difficult cash flow cycle of getting paid back from retailers, and it can be pretty expensive producing all the inventory up front, depending on where you're going. So like that could be helpful, or if it's people with connections in the space and stuff. But I think a lot of times people just raise so much money like you don't need it.
Yeah.
So if there's a way not to, where you can just focus on like just building the business, it's important. And then I think too, like once you do get investors on board, it's not necessarily just your company anymore. You can't really do whatever you want. No. Not that we do whatever we want now, but it kind of changes because you have someone providing capital to you, and they want to see it grow, not decrease. So you have to do things that help build that. Whereas now we can kind of do whatever and test different things, even though they might not have a payback, but we can test it and see if it does work. So,
hey, that's entrepreneurship 101 right there.
And it is.
Yeah. I have one thing here, because I know you're extremely busy. A lot of people have asked me, because this podcast, the word that you were coming on, Connor, it kind of spread from one person to another person. A lot of people want to know, and this is the only Bachelor question I'm going to ask.
Okay.
Is, would you go back on the show and do it all again if you could? Because I don't know if what you see on TV is really like an accurate depiction, because I mean, you kind of seem, the way now how I know you as, you were on TV, but like, would you go back and do that experience again? Like, was it worth your time, worthwhile?
So, yeah, I mean, that's a loaded question. I think it depends on one, where I'm at in life, and two, what the state of the show is. If I'm single, if I'm, the way my life is headed right now, I don't think I'm ever going to want to go back on there, to be honest, because it's not as enjoyable as it seems. And I just think, you don't really get your way necessarily. Like it's just very controlled, and whatever the producers want, that's what's going to happen, not what you want. Whether you're the Bachelor or the Bachelorette, your contestant, they don't always have the best interest at heart for those people. They just want to make a good TV show. So I think there's that. If down the road, maybe there was someone I was interested in, maybe that would happen. But at the same time, like with social media and everything nowadays, you should be able to get connected with anyone pretty immediately.
Yeah.
So really it would just be like, okay, do I want to go on a TV show? And, very thankful for that whole experience. Do I want to be back in that light again? Not necessarily. Honestly, my goal with everything is like, okay, just build this business and other investments and businesses while I can. And then, hopefully in 5 years, just like delete social media and honestly disappear from the world and like go enjoy my life, go travel around, go do all that stuff. So we'll see. I would say there's probably like a 99.9% chance I don't ever go back on that show. But you never know.
Hey, the people wanted to know, and there you have it.
Would you go on?
There's a funny story. There was actually an opportunity for me to potentially go on there once.
Oh.
It's not in the cards. It's not in the cards because very similar to you, Connor. I'm an entrepreneur. I think this is more exciting than going on, a reality TV show.
Yeah, well, I think too, I think before The Bachelor had a big allure because, it's like, oh, I can go on the show, maybe get all these followers, whatever. I think now that people like know what that's like a little bit more.
Yeah.
One, it's not that enjoyable having like a huge social media platform all the time. In a way, it's like very stressful. But also there's a lot of other shows where you can do that now on Netflix that are in the exact same world, whether it's Too Hot to Handle or like Love Island on CBS. You can get the same experience and like the same exposure, whatever you want. And then I just think like The Bachelor in a way, I don't know what the catalyst for this was, but I feel like it's gone down recently. And I know a lot of people that just feel burned out from watching it and like haven't watched it. I personally haven't watched it since Peter's season. So, I know like for myself, I don't watch it anymore. And in a way, it just brings back traumatic memories. But I think like it was interesting. Like if you asked me a couple years ago, like if you should go on the show, I'd be like, oh yeah, 100% you should do it. Now, if someone asks me that, I'd be like, I don't know. I feel like if there's something you want to do, unless you truly are interested in the person that's the Bachelor, the Bachelorette, which you wouldn't even know, by the way, until you're actually there. But unless that's the case, really, if there's any other reason you want to go on there, whether it's, for exposure to help your business, whatever, you can do that without going on a show like that.
Yeah.
I mean, nowadays it's so not easy, but like there's so many different ways that you can get that stuff. So I would just encourage people to not do it, honestly.
Well, there you have it. Connor, there's something I want to chat offline with you about, but thank you for coming on here. We want to continue to promote Waterboy, continue to promote, the entrepreneurial spirit, the investing journey. That's what this podcast is for. So really, really appreciate you coming on here, my friend. It was great having you.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me on.
All right.